Thank you.
You're welcome. That was easy. All right.
Perfect. So,
Okay.
so I'll do a quick introduction. So,
Thank you.
thank you all so much for being here today. I know it's been a really wild week. Things are not settled yet. And Laura is going to just pour into us, help us talk about all of this sensical, nonsensical things that are going on. I know I've been keeping myself off of social media and any type of media because it has brought me down, and I've just stayed around positive people like y'all. So just know that there's a lot of good things to know too. And I cannot wait for Laura to pour into us. And thank you so much again for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Again, as Corey said, like there's so much misinformation out there. There is a lot of negativity around it. And if you know me at all, you know I'm not going to let you sit in negativity. I'm not going to let you spread negativity, and I'm not going to let you consume negativity in a way that impacts your business in a bad way. So we're here to dispel a lot of the myths to make sure that you are informed about what you need to know about this lawsuit so that you're spreading correct information. We're going to talk about the impact on your business, and not only on your business, but how it's going to impact your buyers and your sellers. Um, so I am just sending Lauren a message that says I can't see the chat. So if there's something that comes in the chat, someone let me know, interrupt me so that I can answer whatever questions there are. All right, first of all, we're going to summarize the lawsuit. We're going to talk about how it impacts our clients. I'm going to tell you how you can be prepared for these changes. We're going to talk about some questions that you might have. I'm going to assign you some homework and some things that you should probably put in place to prepare for this. And then I'm going to give you some resources as well for more information as you're navigating all this. So real quick, the summary, and I'm going to do this as fast as I can, because if you don't know by now what this lawsuit is about, if you don't know how to summarize it for your clients, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, you've got more homework to do than the rest of us, because you need to catch up on what this means, what the lawsuit is, and how to break it down in digestible pieces for your clients so that they understand. So first of all, let's just say someone alleged that we were charging unfair commissions to clients, and that prompted lawsuits. Home sellers challenged listing breakers, and they were not aware that our commissions or our fees were negotiable. Several people complained that they had no idea they were paying the buyer's agent commission. And so there were lawsuits surrounding those allegations, and National Association of Realtors and the Department of Justice came to a settlement to revise some of our practices, to allow more transparency in our business, and to change some of the practices that are currently involved. The reason that a couple of things that I want to point out to you is that, in my opinion, I think this lawsuit is actually a good thing for our industry. There's a lot of questions right now. It's scary right now. People are confused, and there's a lot of misinformation being spread, which makes it more scary for people who are newer to the business, for sure. But I'm here to tell you, as one that has been practicing real estate since dinosaurs roamed the earth, that this is a change like many other changes we have seen before. And if you are going to have a long-standing business in this industry, you must adjust and pivot as things come down the pike, and they always will. But what you do need to do is understand the lawsuit, be able to summarize it to your clients, and understand how it impacts them and not just you. Okay. The big thing that you need to understand is you can go find in my resources, I have the fact sheet for you. I also have the website that you can go to. And anybody who wants this presentation later, ask me for it. I'm happy to share it with you. So again, the settlement still has to be approved by a judge, so it has not taken a place effective today or anything like that. We are looking at a mid-July implementation. What you do need to know is that all clients are going to have to enter into an agency agreement. In most states, that's business as usual. In most states, we've been doing that for decades. It's not that big of a deal. But for some states, They were the wild, wild west out there, and people were just doing whatever without an agency agreement. So what they've done is forced us all to improve our services and make sure that everybody understands who represents who. So you're going to have to start being better at explaining an agency agreement and what that means and the obligations under it. You are also going to have to stand behind your agency agreements. There were days that lots of agents would force clients to sign an agency agreement, but if the buyer ended up working with another agent or something, they ended up just losing out, and most would not even take the client to court to fight for their money. And so my advice to you is you're going to have to stand behind your agreements. They are legally binding contracts and documents, and you should have these in place anyway. So get good at summarizing them, get better at enforcing them, and making sure that everyone understands who you represent. The second part of this lawsuit, or the settlement that they came to, is that the field in the MLS for compensation is no longer visible or searchable in the MLS. It does not mean that compensation is going away. It does not mean that sellers are not paying buyers agents commissions. It means that the field in the MLS, where some MLSs have what the cooperating compensation is no longer a field in the MLS to look at. The thought behind that is that you can't search by what the highest commission rate is. You can't only show your clients the ones that have the highest percentages and throw the ones that have pennies on the dollar, what you normally make, in the trash. It evens the playing field. It makes it so that there's more ethics involved in it. And it's going to mean that you're going to have to do some more negotiation on your client's behalf in order for you to get paid. One of the things that I'm really frustrated, you're going to hear me say probably 3 times in this presentation, is stop focusing so much on how you're getting paid and start focusing on the impact to the client. All of your education and your posts on social media and how you're communicating with other agents and the consumers cannot only be about your paycheck. They don't care about your paycheck as much as you think they do, right? They want you to get paid. They're not sure how you're going to get paid right now because of all the questions. But all of the discussion that I'm seeing, the focus is all right now on how we're getting paid as agents, and that's part of the problem. They already see us as used car salespeople. They already see us as we make too much money. And when we are focused only on our compensation, we are creating that idea and planting seeds that that's all we're focused on and that's all we care about. And that's not true, right? Your clients need you to care about them in this process. Your clients need you to be more worried about how they're impacted and affected by this legislation, by the lawsuit, by the settlement, not just about how you're getting paid. So focus a little less on your money right now and focus on how you're going to solve the problems that some of these changes have created for the buyers and the sellers. Does that make sense to everybody? Can we all agree that our compensation should not be the first thing we're worried about? You're going to still get paid, right? But that cannot be the only thing you think about. You cannot get paid more than what your agency agreement specifies. So for example, if you sign a buyer agency agreement and on that line, you put that your fee is X, but somehow you heard from the seller's agent that they're willing to pay you Y, and that's more than X, you're not going to be able to collect the Y unless it's negotiated or the agreement is altered. But the only way you're not going to be able to get more than what the agency agreement has stipulated you're going to get paid. Okay? All compensation is negotiable. It always has been. Always. It just has not been communicated to consumers that it is negotiable. That's where these lawsuits came from. Okay? But now all the parties are going to know. How does this affect buyers? You're going to see major changes in transparency, which is a great thing. We should be more transparent with our clients. They should understand how we get paid. They should understand where that money is coming from. Your sellers also should have some transparency. We're going to talk about that. This affects the buyers because they're going to have to enter into an agreement. So the process of how you introduce this agreement, when you introduce it, How you present that is all going to be a learning step for some of you. It's going to be a part of your process that you're going to have to work on. It is going to impact the buyers though, because just like right now, nothing has changed so much for those that have been doing buyer agency agreements all along. When you present the agreement is what the difference is. It really must be prior to any substantial substantive conversation about real estate is when you introduce the agency agreement. Before you're showing homes, you should be introducing agency and letting them know that they have an option for representation and what that looks like. You should be documenting and stipulating what they should expect from you and your service, right? Those are going to look a little different for states that have never done this or states that don't require it, right? I already have seen discussion on social media groups where agents have said, I'm just not showing a house until they sign an agreement. Well, I want you to remember, you must still build rapport and trust with a client before you throw a contract at them, right? That does not escape. This requirement for this agreement does not allow you to escape the obligation of educating them about their rights and their options. First and foremost, right? You're not going to ask someone to marry you on a first date unless you're a lesbian or crazy. I'm just kidding. I can say that, but I'm just saying you're not going to do that. Why would you do that with a consumer? Why would you ask them to marry you without dating first, right? Showing clients properties is the same way. We're going to ask them to date us a little bit. We're going to get to know them. We're going to build rapport and trust. But you are going to present their options to them at the very beginning of the conversation. Okay. There are going to be new options for payment. How is your fee going to be paid? This is the part that we have the most question marks around right now. The reason that the agents are so scared. That what they're hearing is that buyers aren't going to be able to finance it, that buyers don't have the money, that marginalized communities are going to have even a harder time becoming homeowners because they're not going to have the funds to pay your fee plus all the fees that are required to buy a house. And that's concerning. You are going to start to see, and mortgage companies are already discussing how they can react and respond to this litigation and this settlement. And you're going to see new options pop up for payment. There will be third-party options. There will be financing options. There will be tons of suggestions of how to work it into a deal that works with guidelines with lenders, okay? There are going to be some potential financing problems. One of the things that is a concern is that how is this change going to affect sales prices? Right now and historically, our fees have been built into the price. Are we going to see appraisals come down lower because now they're backing out compensation? Are they comparing that? Is that now one of the terms that they're looking at? If one house had an agent and another one didn't, do they have to back that out of their valuation? There are going to be things that we're going to be looking at to determine, is this going to be an issue? There are government-backed loans right now that we're concerned about, your VA and your FHA. It's not as simple as just asking for a concession for the seller to pay it. You might be maxed out on seller concessions if they're paying closing costs. There's a certain cap on the percentage that the seller is allowed to pay. And then, of course, with VA loans, you know, there are certain non-allowable expenses that the buyer can pay, and those will not be allowed on the settlement statement. So we're still working out those kinks. Trust me that this is all an adjustment, and there are people, powers that be, that are smarter than you and me, that are working on coming up with solutions to solve these problems. But what I think you should hold on to, and what I think you should recognize, is that while there are a lot of people saying that NAR sold us out, and that we should all be angry at the National Association of Realtors, my perspective is, and I'm not the person that loves NAR but I will tell you, I've gotten a lot of value from this association over my 25-year career. If you don't understand what NAR does for you in your business, that is on you to investigate what benefits do they offer, and are you taking advantage of any of those benefits? But one thing I will tell you is that what they did with this settlement is they protected the individual agents like you and me from litigation. They protected us from being sued by going after these larger companies and asking these larger companies to pay into this fund that would protect the common practitioner from being sued. So while you want to be mad at NAR and you want to leave NAR and feel like they didn't do anything for us, I am angry. I feel like they could have been more proactive in their preparing us for how to respond to this. I felt like they got to the table late to discuss it and should have been more proactive in their decision of making. Coming to this settlement agreement, there should have been a major explanation of how we can answer some of the questions and how we can prepare for this sooner than we got it. But please know, I believe that they did the best they could to protect the practitioners, you and me, from being sued. And they really tried to protect most of the members in the way that they structured it. How can buyers navigate these changes that they're making? We're going to see more flexibility and representation, right? You're going to see agents that have a menu of services. You're going to see agents that maybe charge a retainer fee, maybe have different packages that the buyers can pay for. It's going to give more flexibility for buyers. They're not required to only use a buyer's agent. They might go directly to the seller. In some states where they allow dual representation, that may be a benefit for some agents. It may give flexibility to the buyer to negotiate better. I just will tell you that dual agency is the fastest way that you will lose your license, other than being a crook. So be careful and cautious, and understand the laws in your state. There are going to be more options for buyers, and I call these disruptors. You're going to see tech companies come into the field now that offer services that are maybe just people that only open doors. And then you go to a website and submit an offer. You're going to see flat fee services for limited services just to take advantage of the situation that we're in. At the end of the day, these disruptors have always existed. Our job is to not react and respond and work out of fear for them. Our job is to continue to insert our value and making sure that consumers know why we're needed in a transaction to begin with, and continue to protect them from the pitfalls that they could get themselves into, or the litigation they could get themselves into, or not doing enough due diligence and finding out that the house is built on a sinkhole, or do they know all the things that they're supposed to know about buying a house? That's our job and our responsibility. An app on the computer cannot replace that. Your guidance and your consultation and your experience cannot replace the disruptors that come in the tech world that will show up. Remember that. Do not be afraid of what is coming down the pike. What you should be hearing is, I've got to get my crap together, and I better make sure that I'm educated and competent and also knowledgeable, and I better make sure that my people are educated about why they might need an agent, right? And then you're going to fight for your money. Make sense? Buyers are going to seek out the best representation their money can buy. Days are going to be gone where they just, click on a Zillow link and get matched perfectly with an agent. They're going to interview agents. They're going to check to see what skills you have. They're going to look at your stats. They're going to look at your qualifications. They're going to look and see, are you competent? They're going to interview multiple agents before they pick one. So just know that the buyers are becoming more savvy. They have more and more information available at their fingertips than they've ever had before. And now they're getting more education about their rights and their options. And so to prepare for that, you need to be on your best game. You need to be professional. How does this impact sellers? They're going to also have enhanced transparency. We're going to talk right up front about their options. They are also going to have clarity agreement, meaning you're going to have a full discussion about their rights and options as a seller. You're going to explain to them that any compensation offered is all negotiable, but you're also going to explain to them the impact that changing that compensation or removing that compensation could have. If we band together and we operate just as we have, but with a higher level of professionalism, we will continue to serve clients and get paid the way that we are right now. It's just going to look a little different. It's going to be transparent. It's all going to be specified in writing up front, right? But it's not going to be where I'm fighting against you and I have to fight against 100 people to collect my money. I'm going to negotiate a lot of those terms on the front end, and I'm going to make sure that the seller understands all the rights that they have, and the choice is going to be theirs. But if they choose not to offer compensation, it could impact the sale of their home. We need to make sure that they understand that. Yes, they might save money. I did a search before I hopped on this call. Every listing in a specific zip code, and I looked in Middle Tennessee, and I looked through 85 listings just to see if anyone had changed compensation from Friday to today, just on listings in a specific zip code in a certain price range. Every single one of them all had a compensation still. None of them were changed to zero because it doesn't go into effect until mid-July and still has to be approved. But that field is still present in some MLSs, or at least in the 2 that I have access to right now. That field is still there and sellers are still paying compensation. Some MLSs have gone ahead and taken out the field, so it's not there. And you're having to call the listing agent to ask, is there compensation being offered? How should we negotiate this? What is most important to the seller, right? I want to remind you too, in Middle Tennessee, there's at least 26 different terms that you can play with on that purchase and sale agreement anywhere in the state of Tennessee. I haven't counted up all the ones on the North Carolina contracts yet, or any other state. But in Tennessee specifically, there's 26 fields that you have to play with, or terms. It's not just the price and it's not just the commission. There are other terms that impact the seller. It could be a closing date, it could be financing, it could be inspection, it could be appraisal, it could be a warranty, it could be title, it could be all kinds of things, but it's not just the sales price and the commission. So please understand that you have more fields and terms to play with and negotiate than just the price. You've got to be an outside of the box thinker. You have to be innovative with your solutions, and you have to be creative with other ways that you can get paid if you find that you're being strangled on how to get paid, right? There are going to be some potential pricing implications. And again, we just don't know what this is going to look like yet in terms of how the appraisals are going to impact that. You are going to see some adjustments in selling options. Again, you're going to see agents with packages that provide very limited service for a flat fee, all the way up to luxury services where the fee is actually higher than maybe what they were charging before, right? So there is some potential that some agents are going to charge more than what they were charging. So the news to report that sellers might be saving money is completely false, right? We have to make sure they understand what their options are. What does their fee include, right? The fee that you're charging them. So you're going to see people with some options. For sellers, they're going to have some flexibility in fees. They're going to get to negotiate what those are. There are going to be alternative listing options. Again, limited listing services versus high-end, multiple packages. Pick the services you want, kind of a la carte. You do need to consider the impact on the marketing and exposure and make sure that your seller understands that. Just because the field is being taken away from the MLS does not mean the compensation completely is being taken away. Understand the difference between the two. Make sure your seller understands the difference between the two. And the seller should prepare for negotiations. The days of this is the list price, we put it on the market and it goes under contract within 3 days, and we don't haggle back and forth on the price, and we don't haggle on the terms, and we have a super clean one-shot back and forth signed done deal. Those days are not going to exist. You're going to have to prepare for some negotiations. Okay, so prepare your sellers appropriately for that. I want to tell you that the absence of communication is assumption. The absence of communication breeds assumption, which means we must do better at communicating to our clients and consumers what these changes mean for them. We need to do a better job of communicating to them what their options are and what our value is to them. Why do they need us, right? What problems do we help solve? When you solve the problems of the consumer, they know that you're the professional for them. When they know that you have a solution for pitfalls that are common, this is your experience talking, let me guide you through this transaction and I can help you avoid a lot of the common pitfalls. I can help you avoid things that people sue each other over, right? How can you prepare as an agent? Number one, you should go ahead and have a frequently asked questions document prepared. That should be a link on your website. What are the frequently asked questions that you most commonly get from buyers or sellers related to this information? Have a FAQ already ready to go. You should record a video explanation of how you get paid. If I have to have the conversation more than once, I'm creating a process for it so that it is easily duplicatable, right? I don't have to have the same conversation over and over and over and over and over again. If there's something in your process that is duplicated, create a system that will allow you just to send them the link. Watch this video on how I get paid. I'm going to be sending this agency agreement to your email. Let's get on a call and talk about it. And let's explore your options, which type of representation you would like, right? But let me record a video of how I get paid, explaining the ins and outs, answering some of the questions you might have before we ever have to meet. I don't have to have a 4-hour meeting with my client for them to be educated. Put the onus back in their pocket, right? The responsibility back on them. Your emphasis should be on the client impact, not your compensation. And again, I said this already. That's the second time I've said it. Stop talking about your money. Buyers and sellers don't care about your money. They care about the house. They care about the process. They care about not getting sued. They care about buying a house that they've done their homework on and is a good fit for them. They don't really care at the end of the day about how you're getting paid. They want you to be paid, but your focus cannot be on how you get paid. Your focus needs to be on what value you provide to them, what service you are giving them. Okay. The next thing you should do is add a resume, and I spelled resume wrong, and highlight your skills and statistics, right? Remember, I told you they're going to be interviewing multiple people. So make sure you have a resume that highlights your skills and talents, your competency, the training you've undergone. Highlight some of the success stories that you've had, right? Some of the statistics that you should include, I have for you a list in a couple screens. You should be educating consumers of your value and why you're needed. Again, really focus on what you do in a transaction. Remember, most of these buyers think that all you do is help them find the house. Today's market, that's not even the truth. They usually find the house on their own through third-party websites or driving around, right? Or going to open houses. We are not just door openers. And you cannot be just a door opener. If you want to only open doors, you're going to be out of business, right? That is not where your value is. Your value is in helping them identify what kind of homework they need to do, what kind of investigations, what kind of insurance can they get on this property? Is it insurable, right? Investigating their mortgage options, helping them connect them with the title attorney, right? All of the things, and there's lists and lists of things. In the resources section, I did link that document, the 179 ways that a real estate or a realtor provides value for a client. You should have that and give that to your client so that they know all the things you do in a transaction. Remember, they think we only open the door, right? You need to be more than that, and they need to know what you do. You do need to work on your buyer broker agreements. You should be able to summarize that like the back of your hand. You should know what it says. You should know what it means. You should know what the legal implications are. You should be able to summarize every paragraph. You should have your buyer broker agreements tightened up with the language that you want in there that is a reflection of your business practices and explaining what the buyer's options are. But you need to know this document. The days that you people are, and I say you people, but I know there's no one that's going to hear this that fits in this category because I don't hang with people like that. But there are agents in this world that literally shove this document to a buyer, and they've never explained it. They've never talked about the implication of it. They've never explained what it means. They've never set parameters with how they're going to work together. They just said, my company requires you to sign this. I need you to sign it, and this guarantees how I get paid. That's crap. You have to have a better explanation of what that document means and make sure that you know it. That's your homework. You do need to create a one-sheet explanation with options. If you are offering a la carte menu of services, you should have a one-sheet explanation of what those packages include, You should have a one-sheet explanation of options of out of the box solutions for how you get paid, and let them know that these are all options that we have in our negotiations, right? You should be practicing overcoming objections and scripts. You're going to get hit with all kinds of objections now that maybe you have not been prepared for, right? I don't want to sign an agreement. I don't know which agent I want to hire. I just want you to show me this house, or I'm not paying that fee, right? You need to be prepared for how to respond to all the things you're going to get hit with. And that is going to take practice, practice, and more practice. There are so many scripts out there with how to introduce a buyer broker agreement, how to get one signed, when to introduce it. I've recorded videos on the importance of it and the necessity of it. You need to do your homework and make sure you're prepared to how to combat anything that your buyers are going to throw at you in terms of their fee, your fee, or the negotiations, or how this is going to work. You need to be prepared and you need to practice that. If you remember, if you belong to EXP, we have a separate rider that actually breaks down the compensation. It's very clear about how the compensation is paid to whom. If you're not part of EXP, I do have this linked in the resource section. You can at least look at the document, and maybe your company has something similar. But the rider is something you should be using in your practice anyway, because that rider breaks it down very crystal clear how the seller is paying, what the seller is paying, and how that's divided or distributed. Okay. You should work on your negotiation skills. Take that, the RENE or RIN, any of those designations that are the certified negotiation expert designations. You should read a book. You should take a class. I just did a group coaching session on how to become a better negotiator. Those videos are on YouTube if you want help with that. But you need to learn some negotiation skills. Most agents that have been in the business in the last 3 to 5 years have not had to negotiate very hard. They have been very successful selling real estate because the transactions went quickly and there wasn't a lot of pushback. But if you've been in this business any amount of time, I will tell you, you're going to get across the table from a bully. And now that you have sellers that feel like they have more power, you're going to get hit with more things that you're going to have to negotiate for your client's behalf. And so that means you need to become a better negotiator. You need to learn how to figure out what is a win for your client. What do they consider a win? And you need to learn to use language that is persuasive and helpful to get the negotiation you want. You are going to have to be proactive. Don't wait until mid-July to start putting some of these practices in place. Go ahead. Corey, I'm sorry, hon. Go ahead. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Awesome. Where is that you use the writer?
I'm going to show it to you when I get to the last screen. I have it on a hyperlink.
Perfect.
Yeah, no worries. I want you to be proactive. I want you to make sure that you are not waiting until July or not waiting for the sky to fall to get your homework done. Go ahead and start thinking about how your practice is going to be impacted by this. What does your process look like? I've got some questions for thought for you to prepare yourself for that. But do not sit back and wait. Go ahead and be proactive and start creating the collateral material, like the one sheet that you need. Start creating the frequently asked questions. Start reviewing your buyer broker agreement and your process for that and how you're going to present it. Get your stuff in order now. The last one is you can educate, educate, and educate. I feel like it is very crucial for every single one of us agents to combat the misinformation that's being spread. It is very crucial for us also to watch and be mindful of our mindset for how we're responding to this. Your clients are watching you. They may not be interacting with you on social media, but they're watching. They are looking to see what kind of information you put out about this. Are you only focused on your money and not their concern? Are you only focused on how you're going to get paid and not how this is going to impact their affordability for buying a house? Are you only concerned about your paycheck and not how it might impact some of these marginalized communities or people that are using government backed loans? Your focus cannot be on your money. That's the third time I said it, right? So I want you to make sure that you're doing your job in educating your consumers and your people, your target client. You cannot be the negative Nancy Nelly that is out there spreading misinformation and lies. And you cannot be posting on social media all of your hatred for NAR or all of the other things that make you look bad. You need to rise above and rise to the level of the professional that you are and let your consumers know, listen, not much has changed for me. It's business as usual. The only difference now is I'm actually going to make sure you are more educated than you were before, right? I'm going to be more transparent with you than I was before, but not much has changed for me. Corey.
I was just going to add to that if you don't mind.
Sure, please do.
Yeah, I think for me, I've talked about this a lot with my colleagues, and it's business as usual. You don't want to go show a bunch of houses without getting a buyer's agency agreement. You know what you're worth and the value you provide, and you just share that once again, like you always do. And on the buyer side, you provide a good buyer's consultation to really make sure you show your value and
Right.
share with them how much you're worth there too. And
Right.
we'll negotiate and figure it out. And I love what you said about like the I've been in the industry for 3 years, so I agree with you that like we haven't really seen a big shift, right?
Right.
But we also, I know for me at least, like have gotten into negotiations of getting seller paid closing costs and
Yeah,
all that stuff. And I know you're right, like that's going to increase a little bit. And we're prepared for that, I think
right.
it's just doing business as usual. And this is good. This is really good.
I agree. I thank you for that. I agree with you. And I do feel like if you're going to put out any content related to this lawsuit, be positive, have a positive mindset, and let them know that what this means for you, the consumer, is that there's only great things ahead for you. This is a good thing for you. It means you get transparency. It means we're going to be more open with you and communicate more with you. And we're going to continue doing what we do best, which is protecting you and guiding you and consulting with you. If you're not spreading that word on social media, get off of it. Just my 2 cents. Things that you should include in your presentation. And again, I do not work with a buyer that I have not done a buyer consultation with, period, at some point in the transaction, usually at the beginning. But I have shown houses to people I have not actually done a presentation for. But you better believe we've talked about agency the minute that we meet, regardless of when they sign the agreement. I have shown them the agreement. I've discussed the agreement. But in my presentation, I am certainly including my qualifications. What makes me an incredible agent? If you're brand new to the industry, I'm so sorry. If you're brand new to the industry, highlight your skills that you brought from another industry and how they apply to real estate. You don't have to have 25 million in sales to have qualifications that make you a great agent. Think about what a buyer and a seller need and want in an agent. Do you have those qualifications? Are you competent? Right? You need to have your qualifications. You should have the average numbers of offers written versus the number of offers that you got accepted. Right? In 2020, did you write 100 offers but only got 4 accepted? Right? That's a stat that a buyer might want to know. If they're paying your fee, they want to know how successful are you at getting offers accepted? I think that statistic or that ratio is going to be dependent upon how well you counseled your client to write a reasonable offer to begin with, right? But that's also your skill set. You should have the average number of homes shown to find the right one. Do I normally have to show 100 houses to find the one, or am I a good listener and I can figure out what your wants and needs are? And we've talked thoroughly about your list. And so I have really scrubbed the listings to find the ones that are the best match for what you've told me you want. Or do I just send you the whole MLS and tell you, you tell me what you want to see? Those days are not going to work with agents rising to the top. You're going to get left behind, right? The average money saved by your buyers or sellers. If I'm a really strong negotiator and my statistics show that I've saved my buyers on average 10%, that's a statistic I want to include. Or if I have saved my sellers money in negotiating, right? But average money saved on either party should be one that you include. Your average days on the market, if you're taking listings, what is your average days on the market for your listings that you take, right? That number might be really important to a seller, especially if they have a limited time limit. Your average list price to sales price ratio. Do you price really high and have to make 4 reductions and then finally you get an offer below that? Or are you pretty good at pricing and your offers typically come in within 98% of your list price? That's a statistic I would want to know, right? What is your average concessions paid on behalf of a buyer? If you're really good at getting seller to pay the buyer's concessions or their closing costs, what does that look like? In my last 10 deals, I was able to get a seller to pay at least $5,000. If that's the statistic you have, that's something a buyer might want to know, right? Remember, they are interviewing multiple agents. They're not just sticking with the first one they talk to. So you've got to separate yourself from the others. If you don't have statistics like this yourself as a newer agent, lean on your company, lean on your team, right? You lean on your skill set. You should have stats of your company or your team if you don't have it. All right, some questions that you might have and the questions that have come up. But Corey, what's yours first?
Sorry, just
Don't be sorry. I'm grateful.
Okay, awesome. Back to that slide that you just had up. I get concerned about sharing that stuff and then all of a sudden thinking like, well, wait, you told me you're gonna get, you average get 5,000 and this seller didn't accept anything. And I'm like,
Right.
well, so that worries me a little bit sharing this stuff.
I'm glad you said that. The way that I would combat that, if I were training you or coaching you, I would tell you that anytime I present statistics like this, I'm always going to cover my butt by telling my client, this is the average that I've been able to get. Not all sellers are going to be willing to pay your concession, but this is historically what my average has been. I think there's nothing wrong with saying that, and don't be afraid of that. Right?
Okay, that's super helpful.
Okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, questions you might have or that I have seen come up on all these groups. Corey, did you have another question or no? Okay, will buyer agency go away? Obviously not. No, that's not going away. Buyers will still want to be represented. Remember back in the day, probably in 1996 and before, we all represented the seller. And buyer representation came out of the necessity for that. The buyers deserved representation and they needed it. They will still continue to do so. Okay, so it's not going away. How will it affect home prices? We don't know yet still. We're still yet to be determined on that. It could happen and it might happen. If sellers are still paying compensation and concessions, it likely will not impact home prices that much. If they stop paying that, it could change. I don't know. We already know it's going to impact government-backed loans. How are you as an agent going to handle sign calls and non-represented buyers? Remember, don't get yourself in trouble with dual agency if it's not allowed in your state. Don't engage in it if you're not skilled in doing it. Back in the day when Moby Dick was a minnow, I used to have everyone sit around the exact same table. And that's how we did dual agency then. If I represented both the buyer and the seller, no one got the benefit of my service without the other one being in the same room, right? If you don't know how you're going to handle these yet, talk with your broker, talk with your team leader, talk with other agents about what they're planning to do. But you need to have some kind of plan about how you will engage and talk to unrepresented buyers off of your listing, what that looks like. Who are you referring them to, right? Will you create a menu of services? Are you going to charge a retainer fee? What does that look like? Don't go out there trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff and thinking you're just going to collect checks. Remember, you get paid by your broker and only your broker. Clients cannot write you checks directly. Will you see a proliferation of tech services? Yes, we talked about that. Will you see full service versus limited service providers? Yes, they're going to come. They're going to be people that are willing to charge. I will show you as many houses as you want, $50 a door, and that's all. And if you want to write an offer, you can email it directly to the listing agent. I'll just let you in. There's going to be people that are willing to do that. There's also going to be agents who are willing to do everything that we've been doing for years and years and years for a third of the money, or an eighth of the money, or a fourth of the money. You are always going to have people that will do it less. Your job is to continue to insert why you're worth every penny of your fee. I know agents right now that charge a lot less than I do, but they're not me. They don't provide the same level of service that I do. They don't have the same results that I do. They don't have the experience that I do, right? Continue to insert your value, continue to insert why you're needed and why you're worth every penny. You get what you pay for. They're going to see it. Will there be door openers only? Yes, we talked about. What role will NAR play in your business? In some states, people are leaving NAR like the masses, that right? We started in 2020 with just over 3 million members at the beginning of at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And now we're down to probably 1.2, 1.5, somewhere in that realm. I don't remember what the statistic is, but I know it's definitely under 1.5. There are places, just for some of you that don't know, there are MLSs that are owned by their local realtor association. And so therefore they are coupled, and you can't quit one and still be a member of the MLS. But then there are also ones that are separated. And there are lots of people that have left the National Association of Realtors because they can still practice real estate without being a member, and it's their choice. But I'm here to tell you, the absence of an organization like this means that we are going to have the absence of the code of ethics. And the code of ethics right now is what guides us and is the document that keeps us all in check, that keeps us all acting as professionals and keeps us all treating each other and our consumers appropriately and with respect. And so while your first indication might be to leave the National Association of Realtors, I want you to do some more homework and go back and really investigate, what does the National Association of Realtors do for you and what role does it play in your business, right? If you get absolutely no benefit from it, if that's your attitude, I will tell you, probably have not investigated what they do enough. But that's my 2 cents, and I will die on that cross. How will your standards of practice change? Are you going to do anything different? Corey, I agree with you. It's business as usual for the most part, but I am going to have an FAQ. I am going to have a brochure that explains how I get paid. I am going to have moved my buyer consultation appointment up earlier in the process, right? I am going to make sure that my buyers know exactly what my services include, what all they get from me, right? That is how my practice is going to change a little bit. When it comes to my sellers, I'm going to make sure that they understand what their options and their rights are. I'm going to present to them all of the options that they have and let them choose, but I'm also going to make sure that they understand the implications of their decisions, right? Just like when you're helping them arrive at a price, a list price of their house, you're giving them advice about where that price should be and how that could affect the sellability of their home. Compensation is the same. It could impact their sellability, right? So I want you to think, how are your standards of practice? What is happening in your business? How does that change? I'm almost done with y'all, I promise. Your homework to get ready for yourself is, number 1, I want you to look at your mindset. Am I the negative Nelly that is spreading this information? Am I the negative naysayer? Am I the person that is only focused on my money? Or am I approaching this as, this is an opportunity for me to improve my professionalism? This is an opportunity for me to be more prepared. This is an opportunity for me to actually make more money than I have before. If you don't see it as an opportunity, it means you don't understand what the ability is for you to make money in this business, right? But I want you to check your mindset first. Where are you with this? Are you pissed, or are you energized by it? Are you taking the reins and taking control over it and saying, I'm not going to allow my clients to be confused by misinformation. I'm not going to allow my friends who are agents continue to spread misinformation. I'm going to educate them, right? So mindset is number one. Number two, I need you to sharpen your skills. Again, know your documents forwards and backwards. Be competent in what they say. Be competent in how you approach them, how you present them, how you explain them to them. The days of you sending electronic signatures and not explaining, get over yourself. Earn your money. Make sure that they know what they're signing, right? Take the time to explain it to them. A digital signature does not remove your obligation to explain what they're signing to them, right? So sharpen your skills. Take those negotiation classes. Read a book on negotiation, right? Stay informed with what's happening in the lawsuit. Keep abreast of the changes that are coming down. Read articles, right? But don't hang out in Facebook groups where agents are pissed off all the time talking about how we're doomed and gloom and how we all are going to have to go get jobs. That's not where the information should be coming from, right? And you need to protect your positive mindset. They will all take you down faster than anything, right? I want you to work on your collateral materials. Create your one sheet that talks about how you get paid. Record your video that explains how you get paid, right? Make sure that all of those are crystal clear. Tighten up your buyer broker agreements. What language needs to be included, right? Does it need to be reworded in any way? Do you need to have anything in special stipulations that's crafted by an attorney that includes the things you need in there, right? Don't go practice in law without a law degree. And then the last thing I need you to do is be proactive. Do not sit back and wait for the changes to come and for the sky to fall and people to leave the business. Rise to the top. Improve your professionalism, right? Be proactive in answering the questions that are coming. Be proactive in helping your clients understand what this means. If you've got people in your pipeline right now that are looking to buy in the next 30, 60, 90 days, have you actually called any of them since Friday to say, I know you're scared. I know you're worried. I know you're confused. I want to help you understand. I need to explain to you what this means for you. It means nothing much has changed because I'm already a professional. I've been doing this forever. I've been doing this already. So not much has changed for me. But I want the buyer to understand how it could impact them if they're not going to buy for 6 months, if they're not going to buy for another year. If you've got people in your pipeline that are that far down the road, you need to have some conversations. You need to make sure they understand because what they're watching on the news is not accurate, right? Do you want them to get the news from the news or do you want them to get from you? This information. You want it to come from you, right? You're more knowledgeable about it. In the resources, I did put the writer form in there. Shannon asked me where she can get it. I'm going to email that to her. If anybody who watches this on the recording, I'm happy to share that form with you as well, that you can review it. This is an internal EXP form, so it is not for you to use, but it can be used as a guide for you if you're creating your own, if you're an independent broker or something like that. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. You can go to the NAR website. There's tons of information about this lawsuit. It's literally like one of the first things that comes up from their announcement. I would recommend that you read through that. There's also a fact sheet that kind of summarizes everything for you. I would encourage you at the very minimum that you read that. And then the 179 ways that realtors earn every penny. If you just Google 179 ways, it'll come up as the first thing and you can click on it. If you're a member of the Realtor Association, you can Google that and log in and you can download that document pretty easily. But I would ensure that that goes in every hand of every person that I talk to. Okay. So do you guys have any questions for me that I didn't cover or comments about anything that I did cover? I hope that that was helpful to you, at least in understanding what the changes are, what your homework should be, and how we're going to move forward with this without all of the being scared and the misinformation. I hope that that was helpful.
Yeah, so helpful. I love so many things that you said. I mean, all of it, really. But but something in particular was when Moby Dick was a minnow. You cracked me up. I just had to point that out. I was like, I have never heard that saying, but that is hilarious. Um, I just love, like, my highlights for this definitely was like business as usual and like amplifying your value. I think that's
Right.
always what we're trying to do, is add value, and I love that. um and then just like showing that and detailing it, rather, and then, a little bit of show and tell, right? Like,
Yeah.
tell them, but also continue to show and prove to them
Correct.
that you're adding that value. I just, yeah, I love everything you
No.
said, Laura. Thank you so much for your
You're
time.
welcome.
I cannot tell
I
you how much
agree
I
with
appreciate
you
it.
wholeheartedly. I really feel like, and remember, people don't like statistics. They're boring. Show them, right? Demonstrate for them. And if you don't have statistics to use, or you don't want to bore them with statistics, be a storyteller. Show them, tell them stories about your successes. Show them or tell them stories about how you've been able to get a seller to pay your fee. Or, remember back in the day when we sold for sale by owners, and we still sell for sale by owners, we have to negotiate our fee with that every time. So how is this any different? Right? The only difference is that it's going to happen more frequently. If you only sold one for sale by owner in your career, you've only done it once. But this is very similar in a process to where you have to negotiate your fee up front. This is the same, right? It's
Yeah.
no different.
Yeah. Does
Oh,
anybody else have questions before we hop off? I know we're at 4:01.
yep.
Anybody else?
Thanks for being here. And thank you so much for allowing me to break it down for you and share it with you. I always love giving back to your group, and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Y'all have a wonderful
You.
day. And remember, you are in charge. Take control of the conversation, and you be the one to let people know what you feel about this and what you're going to, how it impacts them. But don't lead with your money. Okay. Y'all have a great day, and thank you so much.
Thank you.